Arrogant Arab executive has just 3 weeks to live, then sees his African ex-fiancée waiting for the bus with twins. He had everything: a billion-dollar empire, an ocean view penthouse in Dubai, and a cold, ruthless reputation that made boardrooms fall silent at the mention of his name. Tariq El-Hadi was untouchable. That is, until one brutal morning, a doctor looked him in the eye and said 6 words that shattered his world. "You have 3 weeks to live." In a daze, he wandered the streets of Casablanca, searching for meaning in a life built on pride, revenge, and control. And that's when he saw her. Amina, the woman he once loved, the one he abandoned without warning years ago. But she wasn't alone. Standing under the scorching sun at a dusty bus stop, she held the hands of 2 little children, twin boys, with his eyes. What happens next will break your heart, and maybe heal it too. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. This helps us bring more inspiring stories like this to you. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with Chapter 1, about 600 words, or if you'd like to adjust anything first. Tariq El-Hadi didn't cry. Not when he closed his mother's casket at 12. Not when his father remarried a woman who saw him as an inconvenience. And certainly not now, seated in the sterile luxury suite of the King Faisal Hospital, listening to the chief oncologist explain that the cancer had already spread to his lungs and liver. 3 weeks. 3 weeks left to breathe. 3 weeks to feel something before his empire and body collapsed. He sat in silence, staring at the neat folds of his $15,000 suit. His Rolex ticked too loud. The gold felt heavier on his wrist than usual. The doctor, sensing that no more words would register, quietly left the room. Tariq didn't move. He'd come in expecting confirmation of a minor infection, maybe stress-related fatigue. The fatigue was real. The pain, too. But this? Terminal? So soon. Outside, Casablanca hummed beneath the late afternoon sun, unaware that one of the city's richest men had just been given an expiration date. Tariq finally stood and walked to the window. The city was distant, as if it belonged to someone else now. And maybe it did. What use was a skyline if you wouldn't live long enough to watch the next storm roll in? He turned his phone off. Let the calls pile up, the assistants, the shareholders, his cold, calculating fiancée in Riyadh, who hadn't touched him in months. Let them all wonder where he went. He didn't know himself. That night, Tariq drove without a destination. No guards, no convoy. Just him in an old silver SUV he hadn't touched in years. The one he used to drive before the jets, before the villas, before he had forgotten what it felt like to be a man who bled like anyone else. He drove past the slums, the ocean, the university gates, and eventually to the outskirts of a quiet neighborhood where time moved slower. And then He saw her. It was instinct, memory, maybe guilt. Amina. She stood beneath a flickering street lamp, clutching two children close, one on each side. Twin boys, wide eyes, full lips, curls pulled tight into matching hoods, no more than 4 or 5 years old. Tariq's foot lifted from the brake, then froze. Amina hadn't changed much, her shoulders still squared with pride, her gaze fixed ahead like she was waiting for something more than just a bus. She hadn't seen him yet. Thank God. He should leave. He would leave. But he didn't. Instead, he sat there, watching. His heart punched against his chest, the first real thing he'd felt all day. He looked at the boys again, their faces, his face, the jawline, the eyes, the same stubborn crease in the brow. No, it couldn't be. He reached for the door handle, then stopped himself. She had begged him not to leave. Years ago, before the merger, before the scandal, before his pride became his god. He had turned away from her like she was disposable. And now, she was all that was left. Not the suits, not the boardrooms, not the hollow engagements, just her. And maybe his sons. The thought struck him like a slap. His sons. Were they his? He didn't even know. The bus arrived. She didn't look at the car. She never saw him. She guided the children in with quiet efficiency. The bus doors closed. Tariq sat still. 3 weeks to live. And now, possibly 2 children out there, carrying his name in silence. He watched the bus vanish into the dusk. And for the first time since the diagnosis, tears crept to the corners of his eyes, but never fell. What will he do now? Confront her, or stay hidden? And why did she never tell him? The night didn't end. Tariq lay awake in a hotel room that felt colder than death itself, haunted by the image of Amina's face under that flickering street lamp. He had stared at her for long minutes, but not once had she turned around. Not once had her eyes blinked, as if the years had trained her not to expect him anymore. He hated that. He hated the silence she left in him. By sunrise, he knew he wouldn't be able to live out the rest of his numbered days without answers. If the twins were his, if she had been carrying that truth alone for all these years, he had to know. He didn't need closure. He needed the truth. And maybe, just maybe, forgiveness. But forgiveness wasn't something Tariq el-Hadi was used to asking for. His whole life had been built on deals and dominance, not apologies. By mid-morning, he was parked outside the same neighborhood. Less than 12 hours had passed, and yet it looked different. Quieter, humble women swept their porches. A boy chased a soccer ball barefoot. The city's noise seemed to stop at the edge of this place, like it had been forgotten. He walked down the block, wearing sunglasses, and a simple charcoal coat, nothing that screamed who he was. And that's when he saw her. She was hanging laundry on a shared clothesline. Amina. He stopped 5 steps away. Amina, he said, voice barely audible. She didn't turn immediately. She stood still for a second, as if the name were a ghost whispering through time. Then, slowly, she turned to face him. Her eyes didn't blink. "Tariq," she said. No question in her voice, no fear, no softness either. "I didn't know where else to go," he said, already ashamed of how weak that sounded. She raised a brow. "You always knew where to go. You just never chose me." Silence stretched like wire between them. He looked down, then back up. "Are they mine?" Stillness, then a long exhale. "They are no one's," she said. The answer didn't sting. It burned. But not out of rejection, because of what it meant. That she had truly carried them alone. That no one else had stepped in, not even him. "Amina, She stopped him with a gesture. "You don't get to say you're sorry now. I'm not here for pity." "No?" She crossed her arms. "Then why? You disappeared like I was nothing. And now what? You see me by accident and suddenly you want to know their names?" Tariq swallowed. He could have lied, said he was in town for business, that the sight of her had shocked him, that it was just curiosity. But the truth was more cruel. "I have cancer," he said quietly. "Terminal. 3 weeks." For the first time her face cracked. Her arms fell to her sides. "And?" "I don't know," he admitted, eyes glossy. "I don't know what I'm doing here. I saw you, and I couldn't walk away." Amina stepped back. "You walked away a long time ago, Tariq. Don't pretend this is some kind of redemption story." He nodded. "I know I don't deserve a second of your time. I needed to look in your eyes and say it. I was wrong. I was weak. And I lost everything when I lost you. I just didn't know it yet." Her jaw clenched. She blinked hard. Behind her, the door creaked open. One of the boys peeked out. "Amina, he won't share the tablet." The voice was bright, impatient, and then froze when he saw Tariq. Tariq stared back. Same eyes, same frown. His knees nearly buckled. Amina turned and walked over, brushing the boy's curls. "Go back inside, Zaid," she said gently. "Mama will be there in a moment." The boy glanced back once, then closed the door. When she faced Tariq again, the silence between them was no longer empty. "I named them Zaid and Idris," she said. He nodded, memorizing it, breathing it like medicine. "I'd like to meet them," he said softly. Amina paused. "You can come tomorrow," she said, "but not as Tariq the billionaire. You come as the man they've never met. That's all they deserve." He nodded again, but what he didn't tell her, what he couldn't say out loud, was that he wasn't sure if he'd even live long enough to keep that promise. Would she open the door again tomorrow? And if she did, what would the twins see? Tariq stood outside the small beige house the next morning, holding nothing but a brown paper bag with oranges and a hand-carved wooden toy he had bought from a street vendor minutes earlier. It felt ridiculous, a billionaire trying to make amends with a wooden horse and fruit, but he didn't want to come empty-handed. He knocked once. The door opened before he could knock again. This time, it was Idris who answered, or at least, he assumed it was Idris. The twin had a small scratch on his cheek and was holding a juice box like it was a trophy. "You're the man from yesterday," the boy said plainly, then stepped aside without waiting for a response. Tariq entered slowly. Inside, the air smelled like cinnamon and soap. The furniture was simple, but cared for. Books lined the shelf. Amina was sitting at the kitchen table, folding small shirts. She didn't look up right away. "Sit," she finally said. Tariq took the nearest chair. The twins hovered near the sofa, watching him like scientists observing an unfamiliar species. "I brought these," he said, placing the bag on the table. "They might like—" "They don't need gifts," Amina interrupted, eyes still focused on the fabric in her hands. "They need presence, words, something real." Tariq nodded. He understood, maybe too well. Zaid, he was certain now, wandered over, standing just a few feet from him. The boy tilted his head. "Are you my mom's friend?" Tariq hesitated. "I used to be." "Then why haven't you come to play with us before?" The room held its breath. Amina looked up then, slowly. Her face wasn't angry. It wasn't soft either. It was tired. Honest. Tariq bent forward a little. "Because I was foolish," he said to the boy, "and I let something important slip away. That was my mistake." Zaid stared at him. "Do you know how to build a kite?" Not really," Tariq admitted. "Then you better learn," Zaid said, crossing his arms. "We're building one for the school fair." Tariq smiled. Not the smile he wore for cameras or at shareholder dinners, but something else, something quieter. "I'll try." The rest of the visit passed in strange, beautiful tension. The twins pulled out puzzles and argued over colors. Tariq sat on the floor with them, still in his designer loafers, confused by the shapes, but oddly comforted by their laughter. At one point, Idris crawled onto his lap without even realizing it. Amina watched silently from the kitchen. Her eyes had seen too much. By the time the sun leaned into the window, casting amber across the walls, Tariq stood to leave. The boys were drawing spaceships on the floor with crayons. "I'd like to come again," he said. Amina nodded. "We'll see." He stepped toward the door, hesitated, then turned. "They should know," he said. "About me. About what's happening. I don't want to lie to them." Amina's back straightened. "Not yet," she said. "Let them know you first. Not the tragedy, not the timeline. Just you." Tariq opened his mouth, then closed it. She was right. Outside, he sat in the SUV for a long time, forehead resting against the steering wheel. It was strange, how a life full of money, deals, and planes could feel so completely meaningless after an afternoon on a rug with 2 boys and a handful of crayons. He hadn't told her the whole truth. The tumors were spreading faster than expected. The pain had returned that morning. A quiet warning in his ribs. A dull throb in his back. He didn't have much time, and yet, for the first time in years, he wanted more. Not for legacy, not for business. For them. The next morning, something unexpected happened. As he walked up the sidewalk to her house again, a tall man stepped out from the side alley, young, broad shoulders, carrying a grocery bag. He leaned down to kiss Amina on the cheek before she noticed Tariq approaching. Tariq froze. The man looked up. Amina turned slowly. "Tariq, this is Khalil." The man nodded. "Her fiancé." The air vanished from Tariq's lungs. Who was Khalil, and why did the boys never mention him? Was Amina hiding something, or protecting someone? The word hung in the air like smoke. Fiancé. Tariq managed a polite nod, but his muscles felt like glass. Khalil extended a hand, firm and without hesitation, a confident man. No need to posture, the kind that moved through life knowing his place. And apparently, Tariq's place too. Amina didn't meet his eyes. "I didn't know," Tariq said, forcing the words through a mouth that had gone dry. Amina gave the faintest shrug. "You never asked." Khalil placed the groceries on the kitchen counter and gave the twins a high five as they came charging from the back room. They wrapped around his legs like he belonged, like they knew him, like this wasn't new, and that hurt more than Tariq expected. "They call him Baba sometimes," Amina said softly, seeing the confusion flicker across Tariq's face. "Not because I asked them to, because he was there." He had no reply. What could he say? That he hated how easily Khalil fit into this life? That every smile the man shared with Zaid or Idris felt like a stolen memory? A future that should have been his? But the truth was harsher. Khalil had earned it. While Tariq had buried himself in board meetings and ego, Khalil had been showing up, picking them up from school, cooking for them, teaching them how to kick a soccer ball in the alley. He hadn't come bearing apologies or luxury cars, just consistency. Tariq excused himself early that day. The boys begged him to stay. Zaid had drawn him a picture, a triangle-shaped man with stick arms and a giant sun above his head. It made Tariq laugh, then ache. Khalil had driven off by then, and Amina walked him to the sidewalk. "I didn't bring him up to hurt you," she said. "I know. But you needed to see the full picture." Tariq nodded. The sunset reflected in her eyes. She looked tired, strong, but tired. "How long have you been with him?" 2 years. "And he knows about me?" She looked away. "Not everything." "Do the boys think he's their father?" "No. I never told them that lie. They just created their own version of the truth." Silence again. "I don't want to ruin your life," he said. She gave a sad smile. "Tariq, you already did once. You don't get to do it again." That one stung, because it was fair. He got in the car and didn't look back. The next few days were chaos. His assistant had finally tracked him down. The board was panicking, shareholders demanding to know if the rumors were true, that El Hadi Enterprises would soon be without its founder. They didn't know about the cancer, not officially. But someone always talks. He dismissed the chaos, told his lawyers to prepare for a clean exit, liquidate most assets, make the process smooth. And then he began writing letters. To Amina, to Zaid, to Idris. Not just goodbye letters. Letters of stories, of lessons, of memories he never shared. He wrote about the first time he kissed Amina in the back of her father's spice shop. About the moment he walked away, and how that was the worst decision of his life. He told Zaid how proud he was of his curiosity. Told Idris to never be ashamed of his sensitivity. He poured out what he couldn't say aloud. But he still hadn't made peace with one thing: Khalil. On a warm Sunday, Tariq returned to the neighborhood one last time. This time, it was Khalil who met him at the door. "I know," he said before Tariq could speak. "You know? About the diagnosis, about the twins, about everything." Amina must have told him. Khalil stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "I'm not here to compete," Khalil said. "I'm here because I love them, and because Amina asked me to be strong when she couldn't." Tariq looked him in the eye. "I respect that. I didn't expect her to wait. I don't deserve that. But I do need one thing." "What?" "A promise." Khalil didn't speak, just waited. "If I don't make it to the end of this month, will you make sure they remember me? Not just as the man who showed up late, but as their father." Khalil studied him for a long, heavy moment, then nodded. "I will." Tariq exhaled. For the first time, the weight in his chest wasn't just cancer, it was relief. And that night, something happened. He collapsed in the hotel bathroom, blood on his sleeve. A call to emergency, lights, sirens. And Amina, answering the phone at 2:43 a.m. Will she make it in time to say goodbye? Or will the truth come too late? The hospital lights buzzed softly overhead, sterile and indifferent. Tariq lay still in a private room, hooked to monitors that beeped like a fading heartbeat echoing through steel corridors. The cancer had surged, aggressive, unforgiving. Internal bleeding had weakened him faster than expected. His vision blurred in waves. Breathing required effort now. But when he opened his eyes, she was there. Amina sat beside his bed, her hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on the machines rather than on him. Her silence wasn't cold. It was protective. The way someone guards a breaking dam. "You came," Tariq whispered, voice raspy. She nodded. "The boys are with Khalil." Tariq tried to sit up, winced, and sank back into the pillows. He felt like paper, brittle, creased, about to be folded into memory. "I thought I'd have more time," he said. "Time isn't something we're owed," Amina replied quietly. "It's what we make of what's left." Tariq turned his head slowly to face her. "Do they know?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I told them yesterday that you were sick, that you're their real father." His eyes flooded. "How did they take it?" Zaid didn't understand at first. Idris just cried. Her voice broke. "But they said they still want you to come to the fair." Tariq let out a fragile chuckle. "That kite. They've been working on it for days. It's shaped like a falcon. They said it's for you." He closed his eyes, not to rest, but to hold in the tears. After a long pause, he whispered, "I'm afraid." Amina reached out, placing her hand gently over his. "I know. I was never afraid of dying before. I used to think I could out-negotiate death, outbuild it, out-earn it. And now? I just want them to remember me, not for what I had, but who I was at the end." Amina's lips trembled. "You still have time. They want to see you." Tariq shook his head weakly. "Not here. I don't want them to see me in this bed." "Then where?" He looked at her, and for the first time in years, his voice softened into something small and human. "Let me go with you, just for one day. I want to be their father, truly, even if it's the last time." Amina didn't respond right away. She knew what he was asking wasn't easy. Doctors wouldn't approve. He wasn't stable. But something in his eyes, the same eyes that lived in her son's, begged her not for pity, but for dignity. "I'll talk to the nurse," she said. Tariq gripped her hand tighter. "And one more thing," he whispered. She leaned in. "In my safe, in the Riyadh estate, there's a black envelope. My will. I left everything to them. The businesses, the shares, the foundations. It's all there, with Khalil's name as guardian until they're of age. Her mouth opened slightly, shocked. I can't change what I took, but I can give them everything I have left. Tears welled in her eyes, silent and full. I don't care about your money, Tariq, she said. I know you don't, he replied. That's why I trust you with it. The next morning, against the hospital's wishes, Amina signed a discharge under her name. They wrapped Tariq in a soft coat, masked the tubes, and gently helped him into a wheelchair. Outside, the sun hit his face like a blessing. Zaid and Idris were waiting in the backyard. When they saw him, they ran. "Baba!" they shouted. He hadn't expected the word. It cracked something open inside him. Something that had been sealed for years. The boys hugged his legs, his arms, then dragged him to the grass where their falcon kite was tied to a spool. You promised to fly it with us, Idris said. Tariq smiled, wheezing. Then let's fly. They launched it together, 3 sets of hands guiding the string. The kite soared, cutting through the sky, higher and higher. Tariq laughed, truly laughed, for the first time in years. And then he collapsed, right there on the grass, in front of the boys, his hand still holding the spool, his eyes open. Is this the end for Tariq? Or will the sky carry something more than just a kite? Amina screamed his name. The boys froze. The kite kept rising, unaware that the man who'd laughed with them seconds earlier was no longer breathing. She rushed to him, pressing her ear to his chest. Silence. No beat. No breath. Paramedics were called. The twins didn't understand. Is Baba sleeping? Amina couldn't speak. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she held both boys close. In the ambulance, they worked on him. Again and again. But his soul had already flown, just like the kite. 1 week later, Amina stood at the cemetery. Zaid and Idris held white lilies in their hands. The sky above them was clear, the same color as the morning Tariq had laughed. Khalil stood beside them, quiet and respectful. Before leaving, Amina opened a letter. It was addressed to the twins. Inside, Tariq had written, "Fly high, never forget who you are, and if anyone asks what kind of man your father was, tell them he tried, with all his heart." The boys placed the flowers on the stone, then turned their eyes to the sky. Above them, a falcon-shaped kite soared again, higher than ever before. If this story moved you, don't forget, love, redemption, and courage can still bloom, even in the final moments. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this with someone who still believes in second chances.